And I know you get to ask this a lot, but it's definitely very odd that Randy never appeared on WWF television again. Did he ever mention to you any desire to go back to WWF at all, or if he had any heat with Vince or anything like that?
Well, I'll tell you what. It was, everybody loved each other for many years. Mm-hmm. It's just like, serious love. Mm-hmm. I loved being there, even drinking from the fucking hind tit on the sow, as they say, right? Mm-hmm. But still, I was married with my daughter, and I was, raising my family in very good fashion. And, I was lucky that not lucky, I was wise that I never smoked, drank, mm-hmm. took drugs, or spent my money. Mm-hmm. So that isn't luck, that's a decision. And it's a discipline. But what killed it, you're not getting a scoop here, mm-hmm. but on November the 16th, 1987, Randy started to hate the WWE. Mm-hmm. And they were going to have, you probably heard the story already, because mm-hmm. you seem to have done your homework. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm about to tell you?
The Battle Royal, the Legends Battle Royal?
Yes.
Yeah.
Al Costello was very dear friends of ours, and he called my dad and said, "Oh my goodness, they're going to have a battle royal, and I'm so excited, and everybody's going to be there. There is going to be Killer Kowalski, Bobo Brazil, Gene Kiniski, Eduardo Carpentier, Lou Fez, Pat O'Connor." So me and Randy, we come to my parents' house, and my dad, we're both there, but my dad is looking right at Randy and says, "There's going to be a battle royal in the Meadowlands at the Brandon Byrne Arena. Mm-hmm. And is there any way you could get me booked on there?" Mm-hmm. And my dad took a lot of pride in how good he looked for his age, mm-hmm. and what good shape he was in. Right. And at the time, he was in good shape. And so Randy says, "Don't worry, it's done." And Randy thought he had the stroke to do it. Mm-hmm. But then I was wrestling in the Landover, Maryland Cap Center, and Randy grabbed me by the wrist and pulled me away. And he says, and he put his face right on mine. I didn't know what he wanted. You're a crazy. My brother, he had a crazy side. Mm-hmm. And he says, those blinking, blink, 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 blink. I can't say it. Mm-hmm. They're not going to let Dad in the Battle Royal. I said, "Why not?" He said, "Because there are no good blank, 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 blanks." And Randy really blamed the authority that Vince gave to Pat Patterson and Chief J. Strongbow. Mm-hmm. And Randy used to treat both of those guys with a whole of a lot of respect. Mm-hmm. Privately, publicly, and everything. Mm-hmm. But after this, like Strongbow evidently got thrown out of the ring in that match, and by Lopez. Mm-hmm. And broke his arm. And he, so Chief is in the dressing room with his arm in a sling, and he said, "Well, Lopez broke my arm." And Randy says, "Lopez didn't break your arm. You're too fat to be in the ring. You're a disgrace to the business. That's why you broke your arm." Jeez. Wow. So Randy was just, he decided to have no respect, because what good is it to have respect for these guys and then they shit all over you? Yeah. That was his attitude. And it didn't make him any friends with these guys, but they didn't like him anyway, evidently. Mm-hmm. Because, anyway, Randy never forgave that. Mm-hmm. That was, and then that was the time he changed his smile for a scowl, and spent the rest of the time in the WWE with a chip on his shoulder. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you what, I just saw the DVD, the rough cut mm-hmm. of the Randy Savage story. Yeah. Let me tell you what, Pat Patterson's in it, and he verifies just about everything I've said about him. Yeah. And if Randy were alive today, he would be very disappointed that only one of them is dead.
Yeah. Wow. So it did look like there was a period there in 1998 when he was with WCW and his contract came up, and there was a lot of talk on the internet. He went away for a little while that he would be going back to WWF. Was that even an option for him, or was he just like done with WWF completely at that time?
Well, I don't want to pass the buck, but if you get the WWE story, or the DVD with the Randy, it's coming out November the 18th in the United States. It'll go into depth about not just my opinion, but every wrestler's opinion of the same question you're just asking. And, while there is an element of truth in what I'm telling you, it's still just my side of the coin. I'll tell you what, Randy knew deep in his heart that he was very thankful for Vince McMahon for all that he had. Because he was 32 years old when he finally got his break. And, the window of opportunity was closing. So whatever small arguments they may have had, I think it's just ridiculous not to see the big picture that Randy loved Vince and Vince loved Randy, and the Macho fan, he made it cool to be a wrestling fan, didn't he?
Yep, yeah, absolutely. And with the DVD coming out and the project, it seems fitting. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of talk about the Hall of Fame. Have you heard anything about that, or have they contacted you about that at all?
Well, don't hold your breath. That's all I got to tell you. Because, first of all, this shouldn't have... See, the Ultimate Warrior had an opportunity to get a lot off his chest right before he died. Wasn't that something?
Right.
But Randy, no matter what happens, Randy's not going to get that opportunity. So they've ruined... And who's going to make the speech? You know what I'm saying? It won't be as good as the Macho Man. So, it's like they waited way too long. But if they want to do it, let them do it. And I'll help in any way I can. But the thing is, Randy enjoyed not being in the Hall of Fame because, he was obviously super extra overqualified for the position. Especially if I say, well, there's 120 people in the Hall of Fame. How many can you name? And you're a mega fan, and you probably couldn't name 60.
Right.
But you know what? I've seen a million wrestlers, and so have you. You'll remember the Macho Man.
Right.
Because Randy wasn't special because he was chosen. He was chosen because he was special. And there's nothing that the Hall of Fame can do to either give him credit or take credit away from the fact that the Macho Man was worth the ticket price. And I'm telling the fans, whether you buy the expensive DVD, with the headband and the bandana and the sunglasses and all the stuff, or just the cheap one, I'm telling you, you better buy one of them.
Well, definitely. I'm looking forward to that coming out, and thanks again. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recorder now.